What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Common Sense, Logic, and Reason. Today, I'm going to do another episode of Race Hustle Rhetoric. This time, it will be an example of historical crime, that being reparations. I'm totally, on the record, I'm totally opposed to reparations. And one of the reasons why I'm opposed to them is because basically blacks don't need them. So many black people in America, give this impression that the reason why the black community is in the state of the condition it is because of lack of reparations. Because blacks coming out of slavery never received their 40 acres and their mule, and there's a bunch of wealth that quote unquote blacks didn't get, and somehow they try to link that to today or the condition of blacks today, even though there's absolutely no link whatsoever between the plight of black people today and blacks not receiving reparation. I mean, we've seen evidence of this, mountains of evidence of this, that shows that it falls squarely on the Great Society and the welfare handouts that pretty much destroy the black community. But yet blacks make this argument nonetheless because race hustlers are always looking for some type of mean to peddle or hustle race because they profit from it. I mean, they're race hustlers, race peddlers. That's what they do. So we shouldn't be shocked here. But my problem with reparations, I have basically three issues with reparations. My first issue is this principle that you've ever heard is that, well, money changes people. You've heard this before. I completely disagree with that. I don't think that money changed people. In fact, I believe that really and truly money just makes you more of who you are. You put money in people's hand and you're going to make them more of what they already are. If you take and you put money in the hands of a business person, well, obviously you're going to allow that person to be more of a business person. You're going to give them more capital in which to work with. You're going to give them an infusion of capital that they can reinvest into their business, which is going to obviously help them out. Or if you put money in the hands of a financial advisor or an investor, well, you're just going to allow them to be more of an investor. An investment banker. They're just going to have more capital which they can invest with, which they can use to acquire more wealth. And since they're investors and that's how they operate, well, that's what they're going to do. If you take money and you put it in the hands of, say, a world-class athlete who's training for the Olympics, well, then you're just going to allow them to be able to be a better athlete. They're going to be able to afford better supplements. They're going to be able to afford better training, better facilities. If they had to work on the side while they was trying to support themselves, well, you probably allow them to free up time because they wouldn't have to because they have this money to allow them to train to be a better athlete. If you take that money and put it in the hands of a nigga, then all you're going to do is just get exactly what Paul Mooney said, a bigger nigga. You're going to just get more niggas acting more niggerish, more ghetto superstars, more neighborhood superstars, more ghetto nonsense. Another problem I have with reparations is that just putting money in people's hands does not mean that wisdom is going to come with that. You just can't put money in somebody's hands and then expect that they're going to do the right thing with it. That wisdom just magically enters their brain as soon as the check touches their hand or the direct deposit gets into the bank. If you put money in the hands of fools, they're going to, well, as the Bible says, a fool and his money is soon to be purported. If you put money in the hands of ghetto-minded blacks, what are they going to do is exactly what Cedric the Entertainer said, that Cadillac is going to have record sales. Money is going to be invested in nothing but butter, as I said before, just nothing but butter. It won't be very little guns, it'll be butter and quick gratification. All the rim shops are going to be sold out. You won't be able to find a rim or a car stereo within the 3 mile radius of the hood. And it's not going to benefit the black community because as that that principle goes, most other communities, at least the money will bounce around at at least 3 to 4 to 5 times before it leaves the community. Where with black people, the money just bounce around at best once, and then it's in the hands of white folks, in the hands of Asians, who have all the people who have shops in the black community. That's where it's gonna be. Where that money is gonna be bounced out of the black community so quick, they're gonna be broke again. Now, some blacks would say, well, it doesn't matter. Well, what could it affect? Would it harm? It won't be anything. Well, they've gotten their reparations, they spent it. Well, what harm could it cause? Well, it will prove that reparations wasn't a problem with the black community. But then it means you have to put money in their hands to prove that. Well, we already know that. Now, my third problem with reparations is that ghetto mentality. In my video, the ghetto mentality, that's one thing I left out about the ghetto mentality. I told you about, it's all about quick gratification and here and now. Well, one thing I left out with is that the ghetto mentality is also a very destructive, violent mentality. So if you put reparations in the hands of ghetto-minded people, all you're going to do is just fund more violence and more destructivity. Niggas gonna be more tempted to rob people. And like I say, that mentality, you're just going to get more of it. You fund ghetto mentality, you put money in the hands of ghetto-minded people, you're just gonna get more ghetto-mindedness, more destructivity. And in that form, reparations could be very harmful to the black community. Now, decent-minded blacks, you don't have to worry about it. You put the money in the hands of decent-minded blacks, well, it can actually help them because they will use it. And I guarantee you it will help me because if the government give me a check and would I take it? Hell yeah. And I guarantee you, depending on what it is, I'm going to find me a financial advisor and I'm going to take that money and say, hey, you take this money and I'm hopefully to be retired. Again, depending on how much it is. Hell, I hope to be retired in 10 years. But that's if you have the right mentality. And if we, as black people, put a conscientious effort to stop worrying about white people, and let's worry about black people, and let's find that ghetto mentality wherever it exists, and let's eradicate it off the face of this planet, then hell, I'll be all down for reparations because then it will be a positive to black people. But then if we do that, we won't need reparations. Black folks will be producing things. The reparations will only help. And then there's another issue, though, with these reparations. My question is, well, who gets the reparations? Obviously, I would say that those reparations would go to descendants of people who were slaves. Well, how do we know that the people who were descendants of slaves? If you look at immigration to America, the majority of the immigration to this country came after slavery ended. So the majority of people in this country didn't benefit from it. The majority of white people in America didn't benefit from slavery. Well, what about blacks who immigrated to this country after slavery? Well, should they get reparations? Well, I would think not. And they benefit from the quote-unquote infrastructure that was built on the quote-unquote on the backs of black people. Well, they benefited from it too. And then if you are black person in the country, and how do we know that you are descended from slaves then? We'd have to do a genealogy check to check when did your ancestors get here. If your ancestors weren't slaves, well then should you receive reparations? And then what about the blacks who owned slaves? There were plenty of blacks in this country who owned slaves. Should they be required to pay like any other white person who also family benefits from slavery? Should they be required to pay anything? Again, most white people in America had nothing to do with slavery. And then you look at Barack Obama, huh? Barack Obama, well, his mother was white. Okay? Now, reportedly, his father was the guy from Kenya, African, which neither one of them had anything to do with slavery in America. So Barack Obama will receive no reparations. Now, I've heard stories of his father being Frank Marshall Davis, but the official story is the guy from Kenya. So Barack Obama will receive any reparations. And then we would have to look at Michelle, look at her background. Was her family descended from slaves? Well, if so, like she would get the reparation, right? And then that's their children, Malia and Sasha. That would mean that they get 50% reparation. I mean, how do you dis- determine who gets reparations? I mean, we have to check everybody's background, every black person, everybody's background. And if your family participated and benefit from slavery, well, everybody's family benefit from slavery because we all benefited from all this infrastructure that supposedly slaves built. So we all benefited from it. But if your family actually owned slaves, white or black, should you be required to pay? Well, you had nothing to do with that. And if people say, well, you benefit from slavery, well, prove it. Get them to prove it. We have to prove that that person benefited from these reparations. Again, and then that talk, leaves out the people who immigrated here after slavery. So this whole topic of reparations is just ridiculous. I mean, there's absolutely nothing at all, no ties to the black community or the plight of the black community in reparations. It has more to do with broken homes, broken families. All the evidence tells us that it all goes back to the family. I mean, if you ever want to know anything about any community, just look at the percentage of out of wedlock birth rates, and that's going to tell you everything that you need to know. Well, we don't have high rates of out of wedlock birth rates among blacks because of the lack of reparations. We don't have niggas killing and shooting each other because of the lack of reparations. Okay, we don't have numerous of fatherless homes because of the lack of reparations. That's because our behavior of the present. And you see, if you look at the stats, statistically speaking, the plight of the black community happened in the 60s after the destruction of the family because of the Great Society. And by the way, I would suggest black people go and do some research into Lyndon Baines Johnson's statement. Passing these reparations, I would have niggas voting Democrat for the next 200 years because he said it. But anyway, that's my view on reparations and why I believe it's a terrible idea because it's not really needed. Black folks don't need reparations. We just need a complete and total cultural makeover. And we won't be crying about reparations. But likewise, if the government is going to give a checks to black people, and if I can prove that my ancestors were slaves, then shit, give me my check. And I guarantee there will be some financial investor can expect to see me show up at his doorstep. And as always, until next time.